Family didn't invite me to Christmas because it's no place for losers. Then my calm revenge. My name is Amelia Parker. I am 34 years old. They gave the house to my brother. They gave him everything. I stood there, holding a bag of gifts. The gifts were for all of them, but I stood outside. I am the kind of woman people call reliable, quiet. I pay my bills on time. I always answer the phone. I used to think those things made me good. I thought they made me important to my family. I was wrong. It was Christmas Eve. The air was cold, but the light coming from the window was warm. It smelled like pine and that sweet, heavy wine my mother likes. I could hear the television. I pressed the doorbell. Not too hard. I didn't want to seem needy. The door opened. It was Jacob, my brother. He is 38. He looked comfortable and red-faced, like he had been laughing a lot. "Amelia," he said. His voice wasn't happy. It was just a sound. Before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe. Drop a comment where you are watching from. "Hi, Jacob," I said. My voice was steady. I held up the paper shopping bag with the gifts. They were wrapped in silver and blue. I spent hours on them. He didn't move. He blocked the door. His body was a wall. "What are you doing here?" he asked. Simple, direct, mean. I frowned a little. "It's Christmas Eve. I came for dinner. I brought the presents." He sighed. It was a big, heavy sigh, like I was the most boring chore he had to do. He leaned in a little. His eyes were cold. "Look, Mom and Dad decided this year. It's just family. Real family." I didn't understand. "I am real family, Jacob." He looked past me. At the street. He didn't want to look at me. Then he said the line. He said it clearly. "This is no place for losers," he said. It was just 6 words, but they felt heavy. They hit my chest. They were simple, direct, and they did the job. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I looked over his shoulder. I saw my mother. She was sitting on the sofa by the fireplace. She had a glass of red wine. She saw me. Our eyes met for half a second. She took a slow sip of her wine. She did not stand up. She did not wave. I saw my father. He was putting wood on the fire. His back was to the door. He didn't turn around. He knew I was there. He always knows. They had talked about this. This was not Jacob's idea alone. This was a family vote. A silent, cruel vote. I looked back at Jacob. He was waiting for me to get mad. Waiting for me to argue. Waiting for me to be the victim they knew. I didn't argue. I felt something change inside me. It was like a tight knot came undone. It was simple and devastating. I smiled faintly. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a cold, quiet thing. "You're right," I told Jacob. He blinked. He was confused. He expected noise. "I'm going now. Merry Christmas." I turned around. I did not look back. I walked to my car. The bag of gifts felt heavy. Stupid. I got in my car. I put the bag of gifts on the passenger seat. I started the engine. I drove away from the warm light and the smell of pine. That night, I didn't cry. I made one quiet decision that changed everything. I was always the fixer. That was my job. From the time I was 16, I was the one who kept things running. Jacob was always the star. He was loud. He played sports. He needed things. He needed money. He needed help. I was the daughter they didn't have to worry about. When Jacob wanted to go to college, my parents paid his tuition. Full ride. They were proud. When I went to college, I took out loans. My father told me, "Amelia, you are so responsible. You'll figure it out." I did figure it out. I worked 2 jobs. I was always tired. Jacob dropped out after 1 semester. He said it was too hard. My parents told him, "It's okay, son. You follow your heart. We'll support you." Then Jacob wanted to start a business. They gave him money. It failed. Then he got married to Kelly. They had 2 kids. They bought a house they couldn't afford. The bills started coming. "Amelia, honey," my mother would call. "Jacob just needs a little help with the car payment this month. He's working so hard." "Amelia," my father would say, "his property tax is due. He just needs a bridge loan. You are so good with money." I always said yes, my brother Jacob. I covered his debts. I paid his bills. I babysat his kids for free every Friday night so he and Kelly could have a date night. When they got behind on the mortgage, I wrote a big check. When his business failed, I helped him move the useless inventory. It was constant. It wasn't love. It was dependency disguised as love. They praised my responsibility. They never praised my worth. Amelia, you are so reliable, my mother would say. Her voice was flat. I wanted her to say, Amelia, I love you. You are a great person. But she only said, Jacob needs the money by Tuesday. I learned that I only had value when I was useful. If I was not useful, I was nothing. I remember once, 4 years ago, I was in the hospital. I had a bad fever. I called my mother. Hi, Mom. I'm in the ER. Just wanted to tell you. Oh, Amelia. I hope you're okay. Listen, can you talk to Jacob tomorrow? He needs to borrow your truck to move a couch. Don't forget. That was the conversation. She hung up. I lay in the hospital bed, alone. I thought, she didn't ask what was wrong with me. She just asked about the truck. I didn't cry then either. I was too tired. I always rescued Jacob. I was his safety net. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as the bank. They saw me as the maid. They saw me as the silent one who never said no. They had built a life where they expected me to show up and fix their mistakes. And I did. Every single time. Until Christmas Eve. Until I stood outside the warm light, holding my useless gifts. Until Jacob called me a loser. He was right. I was a loser. Not because I didn't have as much money as he pretended to have. I was a loser because I let them use me for so long. I drove home through the snow. The lights on the houses were beautiful. They looked like little perfect boxes of happiness. Mine didn't. My apartment was quiet. I walked in. I put the gifts down on the floor. I didn't bother taking off my coat. I went to the kitchen. I made a cup of instant coffee. It was bad coffee. I didn't care. I sat at my kitchen table. I looked out the window. The snow was coming down hard now. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a stillness. I started thinking about the words. No place for losers. I thought about the money. I had paid for Jacob's youngest son's braces. $4,000. I didn't even get a thank you note. I thought about my vacation last year. I had saved up for months. I was going to see the ocean. My mother called 3 days before. Amelia, the kids need someone to watch them this week. Kelly is sick, and Jacob has a big job. I canceled the trip. I lost the deposit. I watched the kids for 7 days. Jacob came home late every night. Kelly wasn't that sick. I was the safety net. I was the bridge loan. I was the reliable one. I realized something simple and devastating as I looked at the falling snow. I had been trying to buy their love. I had been paying for a seat at the table. And on the one night the whole family was supposed to be together, they cashed my checks and told me to stay outside. I had never been part of a family. I had been their crutch. I am done. The thought came out of nowhere. It was a clear ringing bell inside my head. I am done being their crutch. I got up from the table. I walked to my small office space. My laptop was already there. I flipped it open. My hands were not shaking. My heart was not racing. I was calm. That's the scariest kind of calm. The one that feels like steel. This was not a fit of anger. This was a quiet decision. This was me finally drawing a line. I was finally going to be myself, not their fixer. The gifts lay on the floor in the next room. They looked silly. I took a deep breath. I was ready to breathe easily for the first time in years. The coffee was still steaming beside me. The computer screen light was blue in the dark room. I was ready. I logged into my bank account. I use a secure, boring bank. I had set up everything to be automatic. That was the point of Amelia. She was automatic. She was dependable. I went to the recurring transfers section. The first one, J. Parker, Auto Mortgage Assist. It was set for the 15th of every month, $700. That covered the difference between what Jacob paid and what the bank really needed. He said he would pay me back. He never did. I clicked cancel. The screen asked, "Are you sure you want to cancel this transfer?" Yes, I am sure. The word felt so good, so solid. The next one, M. Parker, utility coverage. That was my mother's electric bill when she and Dad traveled. They traveled a lot. They traveled on my money. I clicked cancel. The third one. J. Parker. Kelly's car payment. $300. Jacob had sworn it was temporary. That was 3 years ago. Cancel. The fourth one. Cash App. Weekly allowance for Jacob's oldest. I had been giving my nephew money every week since he was 8. I wanted to be the fun aunt. I wanted them to like me. Cancel. I saw the total amount I had given him over the years. It was more than my emergency fund. I kept going. 5 years of quiet sacrifices. Everything was automated. Everything was set to help them. I checked my credit card account. I had put the money for the braces on the card. I paid the minimum, but I was carrying the debt. It was always there. I went to my savings account. I moved a large sum of money, the money I was supposed to have used for a down payment on a better apartment. I moved it to a new, locked account at a different bank, an account only I knew about, a fortress. It took me 5 minutes to erase 5 years of automatic dependency. When I was finished, I logged out. I shut the laptop quietly. I leaned back in my chair. I could still feel the cold from the outside, but inside I felt warm. I felt light. I didn't think about what would happen next. I didn't think about the phone calls. I only thought about me. I took a deep, easy breath. This is what freedom feels like. It was a quiet feeling, a simple fact. I was done being the safety net. I was done being the backup plan. They would have to learn to stand up on their own. Or fall. That was their choice now. Not mine. I stood up. I took off my coat. I went to the freezer. I took out a small, fancy piece of chocolate cake I had bought last week. I ate it slowly. I enjoyed every bite. It was the best Christmas Eve I had had in years. The quiet lasted about 3 days. I spent those 3 days cleaning. I reorganized my apartment. I watched old movies. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't turn it off. I just didn't answer. I watched the names come up. The first call was from Mom. She called Sunday morning. I let it ring. The second call was from Dad. Sunday afternoon. He never calls. He texts or sends Mom. This was unusual. I let it ring. The text messages started Sunday night. From Mom. Amelia, you missed Christmas. Is everything okay? Call us. I deleted it. The real noise started on Monday, the first of the month. That's when the first payments were supposed to hit. And they didn't. It was Jacob. He didn't call. He texted. It started simple. From Jacob, 8 a.m. Hey, the transfer for the car didn't hit. Is the bank having issues? I did not reply. I was drinking my coffee. It was good coffee this morning. From Jacob, 10 halal a.m. Amelia, seriously. The bank is calling me. Is your account messed up? You need to fix it right now. I started my workday. I work from home. I am a freelance editor. I put on noise-canceling headphones. I put my phone on silent. From Jacob, 12:30 p.m. I need that money. It's due today. This is not funny. Call me back. His tone was turning. It was changing from annoyed to demanding. From Jacob, 3 p.m. The transfer is still not there. What the hell, Amelia? You know this is important. Do you want my car to get repossessed? This was the victim tone. He was the victim, not me. Never me. From Jacob, 5 p.m. I swear, if you are doing this to punish me for Christmas, it wasn't my idea. Mom said it. Call me. Now. I was making myself a fancy dinner. I used butter. I never use that much butter. Then the phone rang. It was him. He called 5 times in a row. I watched the screen. Then the texts came again. They were ugly. From Jacob, 6:30 p.m. You've changed. You are being selfish. This is what you do when you get a little money? You throw your family under the bus? From Jacob, 6:35 p.m. Call me back, you ungrateful little brat. I can't believe you would do this to us. To the kids, selfish. That word made me smile a little. Yes, I was being selfish. Finally. Silence, Amelia discovered, is more powerful than anger. If I had yelled, he would have yelled back. If I had explained, he would have argued. If I had apologized, he would have won. I did none of those things. I just ate my buttery dinner. I watched a movie. I slept well. I had given him everything for years. Now I gave him nothing. No money, no anger, no explanation. He was running into a wall of air. He hated it. The next day, my mother called my work number. I picked it up. Hello? I said. Professional. Amelia, it's Mom. Your brother is in trouble. His payment didn't go through. What is wrong with your bank? Her voice was high and strained. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about Jacob. Nothing is wrong with my bank, Mom, I said. My voice was calm, steady. Well, you need to fix it. Today, he needs that money. You know how important his credit is. My credit is the one that matters, I thought. My credit is the one paying for his life. Mom, I said, I am not sending any more money. I canceled the transfers. There was a silence on the line. A long, stunned silence. You what? What are you talking about? That's your brother. That's family. I know who it is. And I canceled it. I am not his bank anymore. Amelia, you are being ridiculous. You can afford it. He can't. You have to help him. No, I said. Simple. Final. I don't have to. You are being selfish, she repeated Jacob's word. It was their favorite weapon. Maybe I am, I said. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up the phone. I did not feel guilt. I felt a small, hard strength. I put my headphones back on. The silence was absolute. 2 days later, the quiet war of texts and calls ended. Jacob escalated. He came to my workplace. I don't work in a big office building anymore. Since I became a successful editor, I have a small, private office downtown. It's on the ground floor. It has a big glass front window. I can see the street. It's quiet and professional. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing a contract. I was focused. Then I heard a loud slam on the glass. I looked up. It was Jacob. His face was red. His hair was messy. He looked like a man who had not slept. He rattled the locked glass door. My receptionist, Sarah, looked terrified. Is everything okay, Amelia? Sarah whispered. It's fine, Sarah, I said. He's just upset. Call security if he breaks the glass. He was yelling. I couldn't hear the words clearly, but the noise was loud. I took a deep breath. I stood up. I walked slowly to the door. I unlocked it. He burst in like a storm. He smelled like cheap cigarettes and desperation. You think this is funny? He roared. He didn't even say hello. I looked at him calmly. My voice was quiet. I did not want to sound loud. Loud meant emotion. Loud meant control. I wanted neither. Jacob, you need to leave. This is my place of work. I don't care. I lost the car. The payment didn't go through and they took the car. You did this. His voice was shaking. He was desperate. It was real. But it was his problem, not mine. You lost the car, Jacob. You didn't pay for it. But you always paid for it. You always helped. You can't just cut us off like that. He was standing close to me. He was breathing hard. He looked dangerous. But I wasn't scared. I was empty of fear. I looked him in the eye. I did not flinch. I already did, I said. 3 words. They hung in the air. He stepped back a little. He couldn't believe it. He expected a reason, a fight, an excuse. You're heartless. What about my kids? They need that car for school. They have a mother, Jacob, and 2 grandparents who own 2 cars, I said. It was a clear statement of fact, not an accusation. He started to wave his arms. This is payback for Christmas. You're a bitter, selfish sister. You're a loser, Amelia. You always have been. The word didn't hurt anymore. It was just noise. I looked at Sarah. She was pretending to be busy, but I knew she was watching. The whole office was watching. I made the next move. It was quiet. It was the end of the conversation. I turned around. I did not run. I did not hurry. I walked back to my desk. I sat down. I picked up my pen. I looked at the contract again. I was working. He stood there for a second. He was stunned by the lack of reaction. Then he started yelling again. Amelia, you listen to me. You owe me. You owe us. He was yelling into my back. It was just noise. I kept my eyes on the paper. He grabbed the door handle and slammed the door open again. He turned. He was yelling now at the street. At the snow. You'll regret this. You'll regret what you did to your family. He walked out onto the street, still yelling. He stopped and kicked a patch of ice. I looked up. I watched him go. He was a small, angry man walking away from my warm, quiet office. Sarah came up to my desk. She was pale. Amelia, that was intense. It was just Jacob, I said. I was calm. I put the pen down. Please call security to tell them not to let him in again. Of course, she said. I didn't care that the whole office saw. I didn't care what they thought. Dignity looks better in silence. I had faced him. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't cried. I had just said no. And then I walked away. I hadn't seen him so powerless since we were children. He was used to me fixing it. He was used to me begging for his forgiveness. But now, he had no leverage. He only had volume. And volume doesn't work on silence. I went back to my contract. The room was peaceful again. The storm was outside. And I was finally inside. After the office scene, everything went quiet for a few days. The total silence was louder than the yelling. I knew he was panicking. I knew the other bills were coming due. The payments I had canceled were the foundation of their entire fake life. Without my checks, the house of cards had to fall. I wasn't watching the news, but I was waiting for the first domino. It was Kelly who called. Jacob's wife, Kelly, and I used to be friends. Before she got used to being comfortable. She was nice. She wasn't malicious like Jacob and my parents. She was just weak. She liked the nice house and the nice car. She didn't ask where the money came from. Her name came up on my phone. I hesitated. I picked it up. "Hello, Kelly." Her voice was trembling. I could hear it right away. It was a small, high sound. Amelia. "Oh God, Amelia. Thank you for picking up. What's wrong, Kelly?" I asked. My tone was neutral. She started crying. Simple, quiet sobs. "It's Jacob. The car. He told me it was a mistake. He said your bank messed up. But he was yelling this morning. I heard him on the phone. And then he left. Where did he go?" "I don't know." "That's not the worst part, Amelia. I found things. I went through his office. I was looking for the mortgage papers. The house is late on 2 payments. He told me you were taking care of it. I stopped taking care of it, Kelly." "I know, but I found the statements. From the bank. The ones you sent the money to," she was whispering now, like she was afraid Jacob would hear her from outside. "What did you find, Kelly?" "The car payments you sent. The property tax money. The bridge loans for his business. It wasn't for that stuff, Amelia." I waited. I knew the truth already. I had always known the truth deep down. "Where did the money go, Kelly?" "Casinos. Online accounts. Hotel bills. Trips he took alone. He gambled. He stole from you. All those bills you paid. They were already paid. He just needed extra money for his habit." I closed my eyes. It wasn't a shock. It was confirmation. It wasn't just neglect. It was betrayal. He didn't just use me. He lied to me. He used my goodwill to fund his addiction. I found fake accounts. Bank statements that were changed. He made them look real. He showed them to Mom and Dad. That's how he got them to call you, Amelia. He showed them fake bills. "I see," I said. It was all I could say. "Amelia, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I really didn't know." "It's okay, Kelly. You don't have to apologize. It's not your fault." She was quiet for a moment. Then she took a deep, shaky breath. I went to my sister's house. I took the kids. I called a lawyer. This was the quiet power. This was her drawing a line. "That's a smart move, Kelly," I said. I meant it. He ruined us, Amelia. He ruined his family. He risked the house. He risked the kids. He ruined himself, Kelly. You and the kids can still be fine. The lawyer told me about the debt. It's bad. The house is going into foreclosure. The lawyer said I can file for a quick divorce on the grounds of fraud and abandonment. I didn't gloat. I didn't cheer. I just listened. She kept talking. She needed to talk. She needed a witness. I was the one person she knew who already understood Jacob's darkness. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for help. She was just telling me the simple, awful facts. "Amelia, why did you let him do it for so long?" she asked. The question was soft. I wanted a family, Kelly. I wanted to be needed. I wanted to be loved. "I confused being useful with being loved," she cried again. I did too. We hung up the phone. It was a strange kind of alliance. 2 women hurt by the same selfish man. I sat there for a long time. My anger was gone. It was replaced by a kind of cold satisfaction. Jacob didn't just lose the car. He was about to lose everything. His wife, his children, his nice life, and I hadn't had to do a thing. I just stopped doing something. The final confrontation happened at my apartment. It was evening. I was reading a book. I was relaxed. I had the good feeling of a person who has made a hard choice and is now living with the good results. My doorbell rang. Not the frantic, panicked ringing of Jacob's last visit. This was a heavy, slow, angry press. I looked through the peephole. It was him. He looked worse. He had the face of a cornered animal. I unlocked the door. I opened it just wide enough to stand behind it. He pushed the door. I held it. It was a simple test of strength. I was surprised by how strong I was. He gave up quickly. He was exhausted. You answered, he said. His voice was low. He wasn't yelling. He was using a quiet, dangerous tone. What do you want, Jacob? You know what I want. You talked to Kelly. She's leaving. She told me. The lawyer. The divorce. She's taking the kids. The house is gone. He looked at me. His eyes were full of hate. You ruined my life, he hissed. No, I said softly. My voice was simple, quiet. You did. He took a step toward me. If you hadn't stopped the money, none of this would have happened. She wouldn't have looked at the accounts. The house would have been fine. You did this. You lied to me for years, Jacob. You used my money for gambling. You created fake documents. That's not my fault. That's your choice. But you could have kept helping. That's what family does. You let me crash. You wanted this. I didn't want this, I said. I just wanted to stop paying for your mistakes. We stood there staring at each other. The anger was all his. The calm was all mine. Then there was a flash of headlights on the street. A car pulled up. It stopped. Kelly got out of the car. She walked quickly to my apartment door. She looked tired. She was carrying a small suitcase. She saw Jacob. She froze. Kelly, Jacob said. His voice changed. It became needy. Desperate again. Don't do this. I'll change. I swear to God I'll change. Just give me another chance. Kelly didn't look at him. She looked at me. Amelia, I need to talk to him now. Come in, Kelly. I opened the door fully. Kelly walked past Jacob. She stood in my small hallway. She put the suitcase down. She faced Jacob. I'm leaving, Jacob, she said. Her voice was flat. No tears, just facts. I'm taking the kids. We are going to my sister's place in the north. The divorce papers are filed. I gave a copy to your mother. The bank is foreclosing. You need to leave the house. Jacob's face crumbled. He looked completely defeated. He looked at me, then back at Kelly. You're doing this with her? You two are working together? I'm doing this for me and my children, Jacob, Kelly said. Amelia did nothing. She just stopped being your bank. That's not revenge. That's just stopping a handout. Jacob turned back to me. All his strength was gone. He saw that no one fears him anymore. I have nothing left, he whispered. You have yourself, Jacob, I said. You have what you built. He didn't argue. He didn't yell anymore. He just looked from me to Kelly. He knew it was over. The game was done. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't apologize. He just turned his back. He walked out the door and into the night. I watched him go. He walked toward the streetlights. He didn't look back. Kelly and I stood in the doorway. We waited until his car drove away. Kelly started to cry again. Hard, clean sobs this time. I put my arm around her. I let her cry. I have to go now, Amelia. I just needed to see you. And tell him. It's okay, Kelly. Go. Be safe. She picked up her suitcase. She thanked me. She walked to her car. She drove away. I closed the door. I locked the bolt. It was a heavy final sound. I had nothing to feel guilty about. I hadn't ruined his life. I had just stopped saving it. I walked back to my living room. The book was still open on the sofa. I didn't pick it up. I sat down. I felt the relief wash over me. It was not a huge victory scream. It was a quiet, deep peace. I was finally free. The crutch was broken, and I was the one who broke it. The next few weeks were strange. It was like I had created a vacuum. I had removed myself from the center of their mess, and the resulting silence was deafening. But it was my silence. It was peaceful. The first few days after the confrontation with Jacob and Kelly were marked by a sense of unreality. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I waited for my parents to show up at my office or my apartment, yelling, demanding I fix things. They didn't. They were handling the collapse in their own way, by ignoring it and by blaming the only person they could no longer control. Me, Kelly, and the kids moved quickly. She didn't waste time. She was scared, but that fear had finally turned into action. She was driving north to stay with her sister. I called her the night before she left. Are you okay, Kelly? I asked. As okay as I can be, she said. Her voice was much stronger than it had been before. The lawyer is good. He said Jacob signed everything. He just wants out. He's sleeping on the couch at his friend Mike's place. He's lost everything, I stated simply. Yes, but he lost it before you stopped helping, Amelia. He lost it when he decided to lie. He just didn't feel the consequences until you stepped away. That was a clean truth. A simple, direct truth. It settled over me like a blanket. I hadn't destroyed him. I had just stopped being the wall that kept his mess hidden. Keep me posted, I told her. I will, she promised. And Amelia? Thank you. You saved my kids. If you had kept sending them money, I would have found out too late. We would have been ruined along with him. You saved yourselves, Kelly. You made the hard choice. We hung up. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The fact that I had indirectly helped Kelly and the children find safety was a small, quiet victory. It was collateral damage, but in a good way. My act of self-preservation had resulted in their preservation too. A few days later, a text came. It wasn't from Kelly. It was a picture message. The kids were smiling. They were standing next to a huge snowman. They were wearing new bright red hats. Kelly had captioned it, "First snowman in our new home. Thanks for the freedom." I stared at the picture for a long time. It was a beautiful picture of normalcy. Pancakes and snowmen. Simple real life. They were finally building something real, away from the lies and the drama. I saved the photo. It was the only Christmas gift I needed. The tension with my parents was different. They didn't yell. They used a weapon they knew worked better on me. Guilt. My phone rang one Tuesday afternoon. It was Mom. I answered immediately. I knew this call was coming. Amelia? Is that you? Her voice was slow, dramatic, like she was reading lines from a bad play. It's me, Mom. Hi? Your father and I are very disappointed, she began, just like that. No preamble. No how are you? Just disappointment. About what, Mom? I asked, keeping my voice level. About everything. About Jacob. About the house. About Kelly leaving. You know what you did? I stopped paying for Jacob's gambling addiction, Mom. That is what I did. No, Amelia. You used your opportunity to hurt your brother. You could have just sent the payments and then talked to us later. You chose the most difficult, most painful way to handle this. I chose the only way that worked, I thought. Talking never worked. Mom, Jacob was stealing. He was forging documents. He risked his home and his family. I was his victim for 5 years. I stopped being a victim. Oh, Amelia, you are so dramatic, she sighed. It was the old dismissal, the easy way to erase my pain. He was under a lot of stress. You have to understand that. He's struggling. You are stable. You have a job. You don't have children. That line stung. You don't have children. A reminder that my life was small. That my success didn't count because I hadn't made a family yet. That my lack of dependence meant my money was disposable. My stability is not Jacob's emergency fund, Mom. It's my life. I have to live it, but he's your brother. This is family, she insisted. You have broken our family apart. You have made things difficult for your brother. She blamed me for Jacob's actions. She blamed me for the natural consequences of his choices. This was the core of their neglect, the constant prioritization of Jacob's needs over my simple right to fairness and safety. I leaned back in my chair. I took a slow breath. This was the moment for the victim to fight back. But I wasn't fighting anymore. I was simply speaking the truth. Mom, I said, I did not break the family. Jacob broke it. He broke it when he started lying. He broke it when he stole my savings. He broke it when he called me a loser on Christmas Eve. We didn't mean that, Amelia. It was the stress. Jacob was just talking nonsense. But you were standing right there, Mom. You were drinking wine. And you let him say it. You didn't stop him. You approved of it. I waited for her to deny it. She didn't. She couldn't. You have made your point, Amelia. You've hurt him. You've punished us. Are you happy now? I smiled, not a big smile. A small, simple one. No, Mom, I'm not happy, but I am peaceful. And maybe now, Jacob will finally have to be himself. He won't have me to hide behind. The line went silent. That was the most powerful thing I could have said. It was the truth they couldn't argue with. Jacob was now alone with his mess. You are cold, my mother finally said. Her voice was flat, empty. No, Mom, I replied. I am finished being warm to people who use me. I hung up the phone. I didn't wait for her to reply. The conversation was over. The years of quiet agreement were over. I felt a slight tremble in my hand. It was the release of years of compressed effort. I had held on to my family for so long, and now I had let go. And they were floating away, finally out of my orbit. It was lonely, but it was safe. It was safe like my lockdown savings account. It was safe like my quiet apartment. The phone didn't ring again that day. I realized then that my relationship with my family was over. It had never been a two-way street. It had been a bank account. And I had closed the account. They didn't know how to talk to me when they couldn't ask for money. They only knew how to blame me for their sudden bankruptcy. I was the convenient scapegoat. The easy villain. I got up and walked to the kitchen. I made a cup of tea. I looked out the window. The world was cold and gray, but I felt clear. I felt honest. I was Amelia Parker, the dependable daughter who finally said no. And in that simple word, I found more dignity than in all the years of forced yeses. I sat down and went back to my work. The contrast was startling. The loud, dramatic storm of my family life and the quiet, productive rhythm of my own life. I chose the quiet rhythm. I chose me. The next step in the slow collapse of my family's illusion came from my father. He was always the silent partner in the neglect. My mother was the speaker, the emotional manipulator. My father was the financier, the one who quietly approved the budget that excluded me. A week after the call with my mother, my father texted me. He had never texted me before. He usually called on my birthday or to tell me to call Mom. The text was short, from Dad. We need to talk. Tonight. Your mother is very ill. The ill part was classic emotional blackmail. It meant she was angry and sad. It meant she was using tears to force a result. But I knew it was a lie. My mother had the health of an ox. She just had a broken sense of entitlement. I texted back. I can meet at the public library coffee shop. 6 p.m. I didn't offer my apartment. I didn't offer their house. A neutral public place. That meant no screaming, no property damage, and a time limit. It set a boundary. He replied, fine. No love, no warmth. Just acceptance of the terms. I went to the library coffee shop early. I sat at a small table by the window. I ordered a hot chocolate. I waited. I was calm. I had rehearsed this conversation in my head for years. When they walked in, they looked older. The stress of Jacob's collapse had hit them hard. They weren't used to stress they couldn't fix with my money. My father looked pale. My mother looked stiff and angry. Not ill. They sat across from me. They didn't look at my hot chocolate. They looked at me like I was a problem on their tax form. Amelia, my father started. He used his business voice, the one he used for firing people. We need to discuss the restructuring of Jacob's debts. There is no restructuring, Dad, I said. The house is gone. Kelly has the kids. Jacob is staying with a friend. It's done. It's not done, my mother snapped. We have the money now. Your father and I have taken out a small loan against the house. You took out a loan against your house? I interrupted. Why? My father sighed heavily. To get Jacob an apartment. He needs stability. He can't work without stability. And you expect me to cover that loan, don't you? I asked. I knew the answer. This was the final twist. They had finally sacrificed their own stability to save Jacob, and now they expected me to jump in and save them all. My mother leaned forward. We have worked hard for that house, Amelia. We deserve to retire in peace. If you could just send us $500 a month to cover the loan interest, just for a year, until Jacob gets back on his feet. And then he will need help with the next thing. And the thing after that, I finished for her. No, Mom, I won't do it. My mother's eyes went wide. She had never heard me say no with such finality when it came to their well-being. Amelia, we are talking about our retirement. We are talking about the house we raised you in. You raised me in a house where my brother was praised for his mistakes, and I was valued only for my checkbook, I stated, the words simple and clean. You raised me to be dependable. I depended on you too, but when I needed a word of praise, you gave it to Jacob. When I needed emotional support, you asked about Jacob's car payment. When I needed family, you called me a loser. My father finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. That was just talk, Amelia. Don't be petty. This is real money. Family helps family. Is that why Jacob stole $4,000 from me and blew it at a casino? Was that family helping family, Dad? My father froze. He looked at my mother. She knows about that? He asked my mother, his voice a whisper of surprise. My mother shot me a glare filled with pure hate. Kelly told her. The liar. No, Mom. Kelly confirmed it. I knew Jacob was gambling. I just didn't know the exact amounts until Kelly found the proof. But you knew he was bad with money. You knew he wasn't paying his bills. You just chose to use my financial stability as a shield for him. I looked directly at my father. Dad, I took out college loans. I worked 2 jobs. I built my life with no help. Jacob got everything handed to him and destroyed it. And now you expect me to destroy my future to save his past. We are your parents, Amelia, my mother pleaded, her tone shifting to fake sadness. We love you. Do you? I asked. This was the most important question. The quiet twist. When did you show me? When did you put me first? Name one time in the last 10 years when you put my happiness, my safety, or my future ahead of Jacob's immediate selfish need. They looked at each other. They searched. They couldn't find an answer. Their silence was the answer. That's what I thought, I said. You didn't raise me. You financed me. And you invested all your real emotional love in Jacob. And you got a bad return on that investment. I am not going to bail out your failed investment strategy. I stood up. I looked down at them. They looked small and defeated. I am closing the account. Don't call me about money again. Don't call me about Jacob. I wish you both well. But I am not your dependable daughter anymore. I am just Amelia. I turned and walked out of the coffee shop. I left the hot chocolate untouched. The air outside was cold, clean, and real. I had cut the final cord. It didn't hurt. It felt like amputation after the disease had already taken hold. Necessary. Final. I walked toward my car. The fight was over. The victim had walked away from the battle she had already won. The weeks that followed were the quietest of my life. My phone stopped ringing. My parents had understood the message. I was gone. I didn't change my number. I didn't move. I didn't need to hide. They just had no reason to call me anymore. I was useless to them. And in that uselessness, I found my power. I started thinking about the memories, not the big fights, the small ones, the everyday settings where the neglect was practiced. I remembered a family dinner when I was 19. I had just won a small scholarship for my writing. I was so excited. Mom, Dad! I got the Johnson Scholarship. It's $4,000. My father was reading the newspaper. He looked up. That's good, Amelia. That will cover your books for the semester. He went back to the paper. My mother said, That's nice, dear. Pass the rolls. Jacob, are you going to eat that piece of chicken? You need to keep your strength up. My excitement was reduced to covering the books. My achievement was just a small financial relief for them, not a source of pride. Jacob, who was perfectly healthy, was the only one who needed strength. That was the family dynamic in one sentence. I remembered when I started my freelance editing business. It was hard work. I worked 80-hour weeks for a year to get it off the ground. I told my mother I was exhausted. It's great you're busy, honey. That means you're making money. Jacob needs a babysitter this weekend. Can you come over? You can work from his dining room table. My tiredness didn't matter. My success only mattered because it meant I was still available. I realized that their lack of love wasn't a sudden betrayal. It was a constant erosion. It was 1,000 small decisions, 1,000 small dismissals that added up to a gaping wound. I wasn't the victim of a single crime. I was the victim of a culture of neglect. This realization brought an immense, quiet clarity. The hidden truth was that they did not see me as a person. They saw me as a resource, internal dialogue. They don't hate me. They don't love me either. I am just a tool, a reliable tool. They didn't give me the house because you don't give a house to your filing cabinet. Jacob was the son. I was the financial plan. They are not capable of giving me what I needed. They never were. Their love tank was only big enough for Jacob. This knowledge was my quiet power. I had spent my life thinking I was flawed, thinking I wasn't good enough, thinking I hadn't done enough for them to love me. But the truth was simple. I was enough. They were the ones who were broken. Their capacity for love was limited. I decided to clean out my spare room. It was full of things I had bought for the family. Old Christmas decorations, a high chair for Jacob's kids, boxes of old clothes I had saved for Kelly. It was all junk now. Physical proof of my failed attempts to buy my way in. I started taking the Christmas decorations down. I had put them up before the Christmas Eve rejection. The stockings. Mine was always the smallest. The ornaments. I had bought a new one every year, hoping to make the tree feel more like my family's tree. I put it all in big, heavy cardboard boxes. I labeled them Donate. I drove the boxes to the local charity thrift store. It was a small, quiet place. The clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, helped me unload the boxes. "Lot of decorations, dear," she said gently. "Getting rid of the past?" "Something like that," I replied. She started writing up the receipt for the donation. The form asked for the value and the purpose of the donation. "Do you want me to itemize these for a tax receipt, honey?" she asked. I looked at the mountain of decorations. All the silver and blue paper from the gifts I had brought that night. The little ceramic snowman I had bought for my mother last year. The heavy, ugly weight of it all. I shook my head. "No," I said. My voice was very firm. I already kept what mattered. The lesson. She looked up at me, surprised by the finality in my voice. She didn't press it. She just nodded slowly. I didn't need a tax break for the money I had wasted trying to be loved. The real receipt was the peace in my own soul. I walked out of the store. The sun was out. It felt like spring, even though it was still deep winter. I had cleaned out my physical space, and my emotional space too. I was finally living my life for me, not for them. The next months were quiet, steady, and focused. I worked. I paid my own bills. I saved my own money. I started doing things I had always put off. I signed up for a pottery class. I started jogging in the park. I realized that when I was constantly focused on Jacob and my parents' needs, I had no time to worry about Amelia. Now that they were gone, I had nothing but time to worry about me. And I was surprisingly interesting. I didn't harbor hate. I didn't plan any more revenge. I didn't need to. Revenge is a loop. It keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. Peace is a door. It lets you walk away. I chose the door. Kelly sent updates sometimes. She and the kids were doing well. She had a new small apartment. She was working. The kids were happy. They sent more pictures. A small, clean kitchen with pancakes cooking. Simple, honest survival. That was a better end for them than any mansion built on lies. Jacob was still with his friend. He was trying to find a job. He was learning the hard way what it was like to be financially alone. I didn't wish him ill. I just wished him to be independent. I thought about my parents less and less. When they came to mind, it was like remembering old characters from a book I had finished. They were distant. They were no longer real problems. They were just part of my history. One evening, I was walking home from the pottery studio. I had a small, imperfect ceramic bowl in my hands. I had made it myself. It was clumsy and a little lopsided, but it was mine. I passed a church. It was snowing. Not the heavy, aggressive snow of Christmas Eve, but soft, calm flakes. Soft, calm, clean. I thought about forgiveness. It wasn't something I owed them. Forgiveness is not a gift you give the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It's the permission to stop carrying their weight. I forgave them. Not for what they did, but for being human. For being flawed. For being unable to love me the way I deserved. They had a broken capacity for love. That wasn't my failure. It was theirs. And I was done trying to fix their broken parts. I was walking down my street. I felt the cold air on my face. I held my small ceramic bowl close. I wasn't waiting for a grand apology. I wasn't waiting for the inheritance. I wasn't waiting for my mother to call and say, "You were right, Amelia. We love you." I was done waiting. For the first time, Amelia wasn't waiting for love to be proven. I stopped outside my apartment building. I looked up at the quiet windows. My home. My safe place. I wasn't the victim anymore. The victim waits for justice. The survivor builds a new life. I unlocked my door. I walked into the quiet apartment. I put my coat down. I put the ceramic bowl on my kitchen table. I looked at it. It was imperfect. It was simple. It was sturdy. It was me. I was living my life quietly. I was paying for my own future. I was my own safety net. I was my own dependable person. I had lost my family, but I had found myself. And that was the greatest, simplest, and most powerful victory of all. I sat at my kitchen table, the light from the street lamp soft through the window. It was late. I was peaceful. The journey was over. The drama was finished. It had started with a rejection at a glowing door, but it ended here, in the quiet truth. I had been asked to be silent, to be helpful, to be invisible. I had been asked to be a loser, but I was none of those things anymore. I was simply Amelia Parker, 34 years old, standing on ground I had paid for with my own effort, my own decisions, and my own final powerful nombre. I picked up the ceramic bowl. It was warm from my hands. It was the only trophy I needed. My revenge was not their downfall. My revenge was my peace.